This brings us on quite neatly to Scream 7 and what shape the future of the franchise will take, and the problem of it coming back to Sidney. Sidney's story was in effect complete at the end of Scream 3. Her mother's murder and Sidney's own misgivings about her legacy had achieved a resolution through the culprit that started the chaos. Scream 4 brings it back round to Sidney in a clever way, because the killer's motivation is to remake Sidney's narrative, which cannot endure as long as Sidney is in the picture, making it thus about being in the shadow of Sidney the survivor, with Sidney now somewhat occupying her mother's previous role as an antagonist of sorts. With that narrative wrapped up, Sidney's role in 5, sensibly reduced, becomes that of a pursuant rather than a target. She is drawn into the game because of the death of a legacy character, but the movie does not revolve around her. Rather, she seeks to end the chaos early by actively chasing down the killers. And Scream 6, for behind-the-scenes reasons, leaves her entirely out of the proceedings, with the suggestion that she deserves her happy ending. The fanbase concurs. So why bring her back again? Well, the business reasons for bringing back the recognizable hero are well noted. We won't dwell on those, but what does this mean for the movie itself? The big problem is that there can barely be any sense of real threat anymore to our hero. Sidney has endured 5 movies now, and each time come out on top. It is difficult to conceive of any narrative that could result in her death and make it mean anything. Going back to the example of Laurie Strode, Laurie faces the same enemy each time, and although it didn't pan out this way, a final confrontation with Michael Myers that also resulted in her death would bring a sense of completion. There would be closure. Just as there was when Nancy died in Dream Warriors defeating Freddy, only for the business model to resurrect him to create more sequels, ultimately undoing her victory. But Sidney is the consummate survivor and has endured for far longer, as has an audience endured more with her. She is not out against some supernatural force that can resurrect to keep challenging her. Ghostface is more insidious than that, perhaps. Ghostface is a concept, and therefore as long as there are killers, and as long as the icon can serve as inspiration, Ghostface can come back as often as he wants. Therefore, any continuing battle against the idea is futile, and any death Sidney would get as a result of taking out Ghostface would feel hollow and undermine her growth and her journey. She has survived too long to be a victim now. There is no way to do this that could be deemed satisfying or earned. We know that previous Scream villains Matthew Lillard and Scott Foley will appear in the new film, though it's uncertain in what capacity. Skeet Ulrich reprised his role of Billy Loomis in Visions in the newer films. These appearances could be similar. It's been suggested that the use of AI might feature in the new film, but it's all speculation at this point. But it's hard not to see this as simply falling back on old glories to shore up a franchise mired by divisive behind-the-scenes decisions, and increasingly desperate to maintain its relevance, despite the fact that the longer it goes on, the less relevant it becomes, and the less tangible its unique hook seems to be. It would seem the best thing to do is to let Scream rest for a while, and come back without its current stigmas or need to lead back to its original narrative, and more importantly, when there's actually something to talk about.